New King God coming back with, I think TBD only throws to 2 players, while Jake will spread it around better.
That's verifiably false. He had completions to 9 players against Middle Tennessee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Again against North Carolina. That's a narrative that you bring up that is not substantiated by the play on the field, right? I would like to see him throw more to some other guys. Now, if you're saying he's force feeding the ball to Will Mallory too much, I will give you that. I agree with that. But it's not just 2 guys. And honestly, the big thing that has changed the distribution from really just 2 guys is the fact that one of those guys has a broken foot in Xavier Restrepo. So he's not playing. So I want to look for 7. We've, been on, working together, and we have that camaraderie, that chemistry. 7's on the sideline in street clothes and crutches. So I know 85, but then I've said, Brashard Smith is the new security blanket because he literally plays the same position as Xavier Restrepo. Great. But, you also need guys to win routes. So, Colby Young won a couple routes, got 3 catches. You know what I mean? Cool. Let's give him the ball some more. Let's find ways to get Keyshawn Smith the ball some more. And he did take a couple big hits and kick returns, so he missed a couple plays of the drives because he's the number 1 kick returner and he has a kickoff return for a touchdown. So, you're not going to take him off of there. But if he gets hit hard, like he did against North Carolina, and it's going to take 2 or 3 plays, those are routes that he's not running. So, yeah, but I get the perception that Tyler is only throwing to, guys. But Frank Ladson had 8 catches. Henry Parrish had 7. Brashard Smith, 5. Mike Redding, 4. Jaleel Skinner and Colby Young off the bench, 3 and 3. Jalen Knight and Keyshawn. I mean, it's just the distribution has improved and increased. So I just disagree with the premise of that. But if you're thinking, okay, it's going to be just more of a normal distribution with Jake, I think maybe to some point that could be true. But you also need dudes. And if I have a dude, I'm throwing that dude the ball. There was no problem last year when the distribution was heavily skewed towards Charleston Rambo and Mike Harley, right? If I bring up the stats real quick, I don't have them memorized. Sorry. But if we go Miami, Florida, we go last year, and then we go receiving. Yeah. 79 catches for Charleston Rambo, a Miami record. 57 for Mike Harley as he set the career record. 33 for Keyshawn Smith. 30 for Will Mallory. And then a couple 20s. And then that's pretty much it out of the 295 completions. Wasn't nobody complaining that Mike Harley had nearly double the catches of the next highest guy. Nobody was complaining that Charleston Rambo had the most individual catches of any Miami Hurricanes receiver in the history of this storied program. Nobody cared and said, okay, well, those 2 dudes got what's 80 plus 50 is 130, had 135-ish, almost, had 135 something catches between the 2 of them out of the 295. So they're getting close to half of the catches on the year going to 2 dudes. There was no problem with that. Why? Because those dudes went out there and they made plays. So if you're making more plays, I think that you'll care less about the distribution, but also I believe the distribution to be more even than the perception.
Absolutely. And the stats don't lie. They just need to be put into context. Falcon Rex, without offense and defense, the QB does not matter. Well, somewhat. I get the point.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're working on it, but it's just one of those things.
Where was I? I was late to the party because I I had called this up, but I had all sorts of videos running, on that page with audio, and I'm hitting mute and trying to get rid of the windows and all of that other business. But yeah, when you got Rambo with 79 and Mike Harley with 57, it reminds me of, now this was maybe the most egregious distribution I've ever seen in my life. Who was the Vandy receiver that actually made it to the league and played? Shoot, I can't remember. 5 years ago.
Jordan Cunningham, yeah.
This dude he had like 100 catch seasons at Vandy, and like the next guy would have like 11 catches. Like it was like unbelievable how much they just threw it to him. And he was the only guy they had. It was funny.
I swore.
Yeah, we're talking about maybe about 5 years ago. Cunningham, that doesn't.
Jordan Matthews.
Yes. Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Cunningham also played, and he was the brother of a student of mine at one point. But yeah, in 2013, Jordan Matthews had 112 catches. The next other wide receiver had 42, and nobody else even had 20. So
that was in what year? 13?
13 for Vanderbilt,
yeah.
And then in 12, it was 94-50. So it wasn't like, a great distribution then either. So yeah, but I mean, again, if you have guys, if you have dudes, throw them the ball. When what was the name of the coach? Mike Tice was coaching the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. They famously had the Randy ratio, because out of every 3 balls or 5 balls thrown, 3 of them got to go to Randy. That's the ratio, because we got Randy over there. You know what I mean? And I was saying that about Amon Richards when Amon Richards, was playing here. Look, I'm not saying that it needed to be exactly the Randy ratio, but what we need to do is throw that man the ball, because 82 is better than everybody else, right? I think that, the focus on a couple guys was for comfort this year, because we didn't have any real dudes at wide receiver, but hopefully we're going to build that. But, yeah, I think the distribution is a little bit better than you're giving it credit for. And hopefully if guys start stepping up, then they will earn that.
Which is another aspect of what makes quarterbacking at that level so difficult, because you walk up to I was going to say up to the line, but they never walk up to the line anymore. But they get there in their position, and they're looking over. They know what the play is. They know what the routes are or the route concepts, at least for their receivers. Mm-hmm. And then they know they're looking at the defense, which is more about coverage, but it's also about, okay, where's this blitz coming from? So if this blitz is coming from here, there might be something right behind those guys that's going to be open. And they're trying to process all that. And what the play dictates versus what you're talking about, that even though the play's telling me and the coverage is telling me that as I take that snap and I give it a look, but I know I got this dude and he's there. So I'm trying to balance what makes sense versus what may just flat out just make sense because I got that guy. So,
right, exactly.
Yeah, I've just always thought toughest position in sports to play. Toughest thing to do is hit a baseball. The toughest singular functional thing to do and do it successfully is hit a baseball that's moving in all sorts of different directions. So don't go to your local batting cage and try to prove me wrong. That's not real baseball. But to process everything that a quarterback has to at the level of a high level collegiate quarterback or an NFL quarterback, with all the chaos that's going on around them, with 300-pound dudes throwing each other around while you're trying to figure out and I've stated this before, where it really comes home for me is when you get that that overview shot from above and behind the offense, and you realize what that coverage receiver combination looked like when the quarterback decided to throw the ball versus what it ended up being, because he had to envision what's that window going to look like, 2.6 seconds from now when that ball arrives.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff.